Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another video. Welcome to another episode on Beyond the Touchline post game week show for game week 11. Game week 11 has ended. Quite a spicy game week if you ask me, as the players now head on to international duty. We're going to have a look at my predictions, the results, obviously, the table, and just going to have a talk through the 10 games that have happened over the past game week. Let's go. So on the screen, you can see my predictions from for this particular game week. The boxes highlighted in green means that I have correctly predicted the outcome, not the actual result. I predicted the outcome of that particular game week. So I actually only have had a 50% guess rate over here. So I predicted Wolves to beat Southampton. That happened. I predicted Fulham to beat Palace. That happened. I predicted Liverpool to beat Villa. That happened. I predicted Man United to beat Leicester. That happened. And I predicted Chelsea and Arsenal to have a stalemate to end off a crazy Super Sunday. But of course, here are the results. We'll go through them again. But generally, Wolves beat Southampton, West Ham drew with Everton, Brentford beat Bournemouth, Fulham beat Palace. Shock result again, Brighton beat Man City, which means Man City have now lost 4 games in a row. This is the first time in Pep's managerial career that this has happened. We'll go through in detail about that later. Liverpool comfortable against Villa, Man United comfortable against Leicester. That would have been Ruud van Nistelrooy's final game in charge as interim manager before the incoming Ruben Amorim will take over at the club. Nottingham, not enough for Newcastle. Newcastle smashed them 3-1. Ipswich Town, another shock result. Their first win in the Premier League, an unlikely first win in the Premier League against Tottenham Hotspur away from home as well for Ipswich. 2-1 win for them. And of course, as I've said earlier, Chelsea and Arsenal to wrap off this game week, a 1-1 draw. So if we're going to have a look at the table here, a lot of things to say. First is Liverpool are now 5 points clear at the top of the table. That is a really sizable gap considering we're only 11 game weeks in. They're 9 points clear away from the top 4. That's 3 wins now. That's the gap. It's pretty impressive, I think, from Liverpool this season. But if you have a look in the midfield table, from Chelsea, 3rd, all the way down to Man United in 13th. 4 points separating them, which means arguably Man United are just 3 points away from the European spots. But because of how tight the midfield battle has been between all these teams, they've all been collecting around the same kind of results. A ding-dong battle, some having losses, some having wins, some having draws. Because of that, it's been so tight in that pack. But then when you look at the bottom of the table, that's also really tight as well. Ipswich on 8 points there. Southampton on 4, just 4 points covering 17th to 20th. That's not very safe, is it? It's not. It's really tight down there as well. And you've got Leicester and Everton just 2 points, both 2 points ahead of Ipswich. I say West Ham are a little bit of no man's land, but I think if we're going to talk about title challenge, Liverpool are evidently currently running away with it quite massively. And if you look at the bottom of the table, the scrap's probably going to continue. I mean, Wolves getting wins, Ipswich getting wins have really swung that little bottom 3 around there. Wolves obviously climbing out of that 20th position into 19th. But Palace losing and Ipswich winning have meant that Palace has dropped into drop zone. Ipswich for the first time, no, maybe a couple of times now, but first time in a while that they've actually climbed out of the relegation zone. So these are the biggest highlights that we see in the table itself. And now let's have a talk through all the game weeks, all the matches, all the fixtures that have happened over this game week. Sorry, before that, we've got to talk about the statistics. Haaland did score against Brighton over the weekend. That increases his lead for the Golden Boot at the top to 12 goals. And Webber didn't score, Wood didn't score, so they're both still on 8. Salah did score 1, that puts him up to 8. And Palmer didn't score, so he's still at 7. Vissa also at 7, but because I'm only showing the top 5 here, so this is why I'm mentioning about Vissa here to you. Assist-wise, Saka with 7, still there, top. Salah did have an assist, so he's on 6. Palmer, Damsgaard and Didi, all 3 didn't register any assists, so they're still stuck on their respective figures of 5, 4 and 4. Right, on to the results once again. I was actually quite happy. I watched 7 games this weekend, albeit a lot of the games were happening concurrently, but I was able to have them all lined up side by side. I was able to watch those games. But obviously sometimes I might miss an action or 2 in those games because watching 4 games at one time or watching 3 games at one time is pretty difficult, I'd say, to register every time an action happens in each respective game. But ultimately, it was really enjoyable. I mean, what I was watching was really, really good. I mean, there were shocks, obviously, based on what the results have shown, but ultimately it was a really enjoyable weekend. But let's start things off with Wolves against Southampton. Wolves immediately scoring in under 2 minutes that game. And I was like, that's exactly what Wolves probably needed to kickstart the game. I mean, you want to come into the game with full confidence. You want to start the game with full confidence. You want to take things in your stride. And Wolves did exactly that. Sarabia scoring in 1 minute 48 seconds. Remarkable from Wolves. Right, but after that, I felt Southampton had a couple of chances. Manning actually scored a really good goal. Fortunately, it was disallowed because of the foul that I think one of the Southampton players did on the Wolves players. I'd say that's a foul. I mean, they did the VAR intervention, and I felt that, yes, probably that was a foul. But it was a really good goal, 100%. But I mean, a foul's a foul ultimately, and when you commit a foul, you shouldn't really expect a goal. It's just like if you score a goal from a handball, that shouldn't be a goal, or if you score a goal from an offside position, that shouldn't have been a goal. But was Southampton challenging Wolves as what I had predicted? I'd say arguably, but they probably ran out of steam at some point. But then Cunha's goal, the second goal, that was class from Cunha. That was beautiful. Snapshot, takes a shot, takes the touch, strikes it. Ramsdale doesn't stand a chance. Make the gap a little bit more sizable, give them more breathing room, and because of that, they managed to see the game off by 2 goals to 0. I felt Southampton were okay. I don't think Southampton were bad. I just felt like, ultimately in terms of competitiveness, you've got to say Wolves are just better. Yes, they had much lesser possession, which is very interesting. Southampton had a lot of the ball. Southampton had a lot of possession play. But Wolves did what they had to do, which is just to be very clinical and to be good on the ball when they have the ball, use chances that they have. I mean, despite having 28% possession, they've managed to register 8 shots and 4 on target. Southampton had 72% possession, 9 shots, none on target. You can probably argue Southampton were a little bit more creative on the ball. They could have done something. I mean, when the ball's at your disposal, the creativity is on you to make games count. And it didn't really look like Southampton were doing much about that. I mean, as I said, the goal was really good, but that's only like one chance that really got them up there. From the top of my head, I can't really remember like moments where I felt Southampton were really knocking on the door against Wolves. In fact, possession-wise, yes, but in terms of making Wolves feel troubled, I think they weren't able to do that. So I think Russell Martin will have to look through that again and think about how to make Southampton a little bit more dangerous on the attack, etc., etc. But with that being said, a 2-0 win for Wolves, the first win for the campaign in 11 games. Actually took them 11 games to get their first win. Hopefully this is the start of something for Wolves. They go into this international break with an obvious break for the players, but also serving the country. But after coming back, hopefully, domestically, the Wolves are able to pick up a couple of good results along the way. And I guess O'Neill will therefore keep his job. And maybe by the end of the year, they might be able to climb out of the promotion. They might be able to climb out of the relegation spots. Right next, West Ham Everton. Arguably, results-wise, a snooze fest. It was a horrible game to watch, in my opinion, as a West Ham fan and an Everton fan. I think both teams should be rather pleased with the draw. This is terrible. I mean, it's a stalemate, obviously, but some things that I was watching through the game and I just couldn't understand what was going on. So Everton had a lively start to the game. Everton were really knocking on the door against West Ham. They had good chances. I think there was one with Decore, a great block from Somerville. I think it was a counter-attack from Everton. Fortunately, just not fast enough. I felt Everton should have scored. Somerville with a great block. But West Ham were absolutely nowhere. They were in no man's land. I felt they were disorganised the entirety of the first half. I don't exactly know what was going on. Things didn't look great for West Ham, and I felt Everton were dominating that game when my predictions suggested that Everton would be dominated instead of dominating. So that was terrible. West Ham's first half performance was diabolical, was shambolic. Again, I don't know what Lopetegui was doing, but he went into the team talk at half time. And then in the second half, things completely changed. And I think Danny Ings, when he came on, he made a really, really big impact as well. West Ham were creating chances, chance after chance after chance, and suddenly Pickford decided to be on steroids and saved a lot. Like, I think the first 40 or so, the first half plus maybe a bit of the second half, I felt like I wasn't really watching football. It was so boring. It was so bad to watch. Like the quality of the game itself, I felt wasn't up there. from West Ham fans' perspective at least. And then when West Ham started to pick up something, somehow started to wake up, I guess. And when they were starting to attack, Everton starting to create shots as well. Fortunately, it wasn't enough. I felt definitely West Ham probably had the chances to win. Pickford was just in the way, really. Pickford was outstanding. He has to be the man of the match. I think time and time again, Everton, they're just so fortunate to have Jordan Pickford. He's been saving them so many times in goal. Like a lot of the results, the reason why they've gotten those results is because Pickford had always been for them. You know, Pickford has always been there to really just ensure that the ball doesn't end up in the back of the net. Of course, there are times when keepers aren't immune to not conceding. They're bound to concede at some point, and sometimes, yeah, keepers do make errors. That's very normal. But Pickford's a fantastic goalkeeper. I genuinely wish that he's able to find first team action elsewhere. I think his quality, his as a goalkeeper, is really underrated, and I think being at Everton is he's just there to save them really from relegation. I think if Pickford was to leave the club at some point and Everton doesn't improve the rest of the squad in general in terms of their performance, I think they're in more trouble than there ever will be. So, but ultimately, I felt West Ham bang average against Everton. Everton had a lively start, didn't make the most of it, and because of that, when both teams are ding-donging, yo-yoing with regards to who to perform in the game itself, I think 0-0 is a very respective result, but both of them are on 10 points in the Premier League now. This is terrible for both of them, I feel. They are in trouble, evidently, as a relegation contender in general. This is unexpected, I think, at least for West Ham, when you would expect better from Lopetegui coming into the team, do something about it, try to ensure that they're able to build a foundation. Again, we've gone past the game week, giving Lopetegui a certain amount of chance, but I do feel concerned about his role now, as in how long is he still going to stay at the job, or what are the expectations that West Ham had coming into this season. If it's just to avoid relegation, which I highly doubt it considering the performances that they've had over the past couple of years, I feel like top 10 should have been the target, or at least 11, 12 would be the maximum. As of now, no, clearly not aiming for that. Clearly not going to get there. Clearly, there are things need to be changed again. I've said this before and I'm going to say it again. These sort of run of results that West Ham are having are bad. Games that they should be winning, they're not winning. I feel like Everton is a great chance for them to pick up 3 points. They didn't pick up 3 points. As for Everton, it's hard to predict what Everton are really going to do this season. Sometimes like they're great, sometimes they're terrible. And this game is just they have everything in one. So it's not good, obviously. Hopefully after the break, things do change as well for Everton. But it feels like the story of the season, hasn't it, for Everton over the past couple of years, in fact. Just hovering at the bottom, and towards the end of the season, they pick up a couple of good results just to get them safe for the Premier League again next year. Might be the same story again this year, but yeah, evidently it's not looking good for both sides. Next up, Brentford and Bournemouth. Now, I predicted this game to be a draw because I couldn't really tell which team was going to be better coming into this weekend. I never really thought about the home advantage. Tottenham was going to argue otherwise, right? But ultimately, I felt like both teams are on a decent run of form. I felt like a draw at that point in time, and I still feel that is actually a relatively good result. Whoever was going to win the game, that means that on that day itself, they had an arguably much better performance. Now, when Bournemouth went 1-0 up, it's a great goal from Evan Nielsen, really good composure. Ultimately, a mistake from the Brentford backline that's cost them. But Vissa's header, great. I mean, he scored a brace in this game. Really good goal from Vissa. And when Kluivert scored to start the second half, it was a really good goal as well. Really well worked Bournemouth goal, really well worked Bournemouth set piece. It's something that I feel Bournemouth probably have been training a lot. The quality has shown. But of course, when Damsgaard scored like a minute after, I was like, how did that goal go in? And then you've got Vissa again scoring another one to ultimately that was the winner. It was a tight game in my opinion. I think both sides had moments when they were performing really, really well. In the last minute, Bournemouth had a great chance to equalise, saved by the crossbar, Brentford, and yeah, it was quite a hectic end to the game. But really tight game for sure, 100%. I felt like both sides played really, really well. And I still feel that draw was a very respectable result, but ultimately Brentford came out on top, and that was pretty much it really. So a great 3 points from Bournemouth. They will take 3 points. Bournemouth will be quite upset about that, but I mean, it's part of football again. It's not a bad result. In terms of performance, I felt it was okay. Maybe, arguably, certain things could be done better throughout the game, bits and pieces. I'm sure they reflect on that. But I think it was a really entertaining game, to be honest. I think it was a lot of action going on, a lot of midfield battles going on, and I enjoyed their game massively. So props to Brentford. You can argue a little bit unfortunate for Bournemouth, but entertaining game nonetheless. And that puts Brentford in a rather good position as well in the Premier League. Right, Palace and Fulham. This game it swung, I felt. I think Palace were pretty good at the first bit of the first half. Mateta had a couple of chances to actually put the ball at the back of the net. Didn't take those chances. But Fulham equally had good chances. Right? I think Raul Jimenez had a snapshot early in the first half, showed an intent at least coming from the side. I thought they were going to go into the half 0-0, but I mean, I don't know what the defender was doing. At the stroke of half time, when you just want to at least get 0-0, recuperate as a team, get into the dressing room, get the team talk, and build on that in the second half. With 30 seconds left on the clock, just try to get the ball, plumb the ball in front, as a defender, just trying to get something out of it. That didn't happen. Dispossessed. Smith Rowe dispossessed the defender. Raul Jimenez pounced on that loose ball, passed it over to Smith Rowe. Smith Rowe shot. Henderson had a touch on that, but still couldn't keep it out. Dean Henderson, a great keeper as well, really. Kept Crystal Palace in it a lot as well. I felt like, again, if we went for Dean Henderson, probably Fulham could have scored like 3, 4, 5 goals in that game. But in terms of domination, I think quite clearly Fulham showed the class of Fulham. Parry Wilson didn't start the game. I was hoping he would have started the game, but he came off the bench, scored one, scored another one in the 90th minute, but unfortunately that goal was offside. Handball goal, which he didn't admit at that point in time. But I think it was a really positive game for Fulham. They showed who they are. They comfortably did win the game. They put Palace in jeopardy again. Palace with the red card with Kamada, a really reckless tackle. I think that was really unnecessary. Were Palace in it? I'd say arguably, but again, as I said, the first half chances that Palace had, I think those were the root chances that they should have taken in the first place. When they've not scored after those chances, I felt it's not going to be easy to create good chances consistently. So I think Fulham clearly deserved to win that game. Good performance again, puts them in a really good position in the Premier League as well. And Palace, obviously in the bottom 3 now, they've really got to think about it. I think at this rate, with the performances they're put in, I think Glasner's time might be up really soon. So got to think about it really, Palace, and see how they're going to try to get something out of the games again. But Fulham, fantastic from them. And I think it's been a really good season for Fulham, I have to say. They're building up from what they did last season. I think there's a lot more consistency coming into this season at least. Still, they're not like a Villa sort of level, but I think if they're going to try to do that, I think they probably could. I think it's a matter of time before we see a pretty strong Fulham, unless they do start to crumble, which we'll get onto that when we go to the game and get for Nottingham Forest against Newcastle. Right, this is the game, Brighton City. Once again, I think whatever I've talked about in the pre-game week show or the post-game week show of last game week is happened. It's absolutely happened. I've talked about how City are probably going to do quite well. They're going to create the chances, but ultimately squat there would be the end of them. I said that they've got to take the chances massively in the first 70 minutes to score as many goals as possible and sit back in the last 20 minutes to not concede as many goals and try and get the result across the line. They did score with Haaland. That goal was a little bit funny. Good save from the keeper, but Haaland was first to react to that off the other side of the bar. It went in. Did Man City have plenty of chances after that? Yes, there are plenty of chances before that as well, in fact. Many chances for Manchester City. Again, possession was all in their favour. Last 20 minutes, 78th minute, 83rd minute, the crumbling was there again. There's nothing more for me to say about what I think about this team right now. Problems are showing once again, but I feel like they should have seen it coming. As in, the performance wasn't bad, you know, in that game. I didn't watch the game, I watched the extended highlights, but they weren't bad in that game, Man City. They've lost to a Bournemouth who, again, were ultimately very clinical, and when they had the ball, when they were attacking, they really showed intent. City always showed intent when they were attacking, but they just didn't take their chances again. It's the same story against teams like Fulham, Southampton, Wolves when they were picking up those wins, but it wasn't good enough. And then when they started losing to Bournemouth, again, they had chances, but they just didn't take them seriously. It's showing again against Brighton. Lively start to the game for them, really positive half, in fact, to be 1-0 up at half time, right? I'm sure Pep will go into the game and say that either you continue this attacking intent or you try to hold the result. To lose 2-1 in that manner, I felt it was a crumbling, 100%. The comeback from Brighton showed perseverance on their end and showed stumbles from City's end. And I don't even want to say any more, really, but this is not good enough, clearly. I mean, good thing is now they've got international break. Again, take this time to step back, take a couple of steps back and come back in again. But first game back, I think it might be Tottenham. I don't see how that's going to be easy, despite Tottenham having lost the game against Ipswich this weekend. It's going to be challenging, really, for City. They're 5 points behind Liverpool now. Yes, they're 4 points ahead of Chelsea and Arsenal, but that doesn't do anything in the grand scheme of things. You can't be looking back, you've got to look forward. But if we're going to lose more games from now to the end of the season, we've got to look backwards more. I think there was a stat, actually. We've lost 3 games only last season in the Premier League. I think we've really lost 2 now. So this is really wobbling territory for City, and I don't know what Pep's going to do. I still have full faith in Pep. And I feel like even if City doesn't win the league this season, I think it shows that they're clearly human. They're not always able to perform at the top level. And obviously another club deserves to win the title, and you win games, you get the results over the line. You score goals, you don't concede that many goals. Positive results left, right and centre. You deserve to win the league title. It's as simple as that. You've got the perseverance, you've got the intent to do well in the league. You're surely going to do well in the league. And that just honestly depends on where you end up in the table itself. And City, as of now, they're in trouble, 100%. Brighton, however, fantastic result for them. They've got to be very pleased with that, for sure. I mean, to beat the champions, they've had really positive performances, I think, this season against like the top 6. Beat Man United at the start of the year. Obviously lost to Liverpool. I can't remember the result against Tottenham if they've played them, but ultimately what I'm trying to say is that it's been positive for Brighton this season. The manager, only 31 years of age, should be really pleased with what he's seeing at the club. Yes, I think at the start of the season it's a little bit bouncy. I mean, you've got to take some time to adapt to the squad and the kind of play style that you want to put into games, the kind of ideas that you want to innovate, the creativity that you want on the pitch, etc, etc, etc. But yeah, it's a great result for Brighton once again. They should be really happy with that. Pleased end for them this week before the international break, and they're probably going to come back with also, again, a really high level of confidence. Nothing more I can say, really. I think Brighton were very good in that game. Arguably deserved to win. When they were knocking on the door against City, there was intent, for sure. And City just didn't have any answers for that in that game. So we'll see what happens with the champions for the next game against Tottenham. But I have many concerns once again. And I think number of the words that are coming out of my mouth are running out with regards. I'm not even defending City at this point in time. I just feel that Pep's the only one to find a solution, really. We can only point the problems out. But yeah, that's it, really. Right, Liverpool Villa. First of all, I felt like Villa, Unai Emery, I think he read the game really, really well. The reason why Villa lost was because of 2 counter-attacking goals, which were perfectly executed from Liverpool. Nunez did miss another sitter again, typical Nunez. But I was looking at that game, the highlights. Villa were pretty good, but I don't understand like why when they were having corners, they were just pushing forward so much. Like they pushed all the players up front, and then that would mean like when Liverpool were trying to get the ball away from their own half, there wasn't a defensive line that Villa could lean back on, and that's pretty much it, really. Liverpool, because of that, they scored 2 goals. Which suggests to me that Villa played really competitively. They had certain level of chances, of course, again, despite not having a lot of possession. But ultimately, Liverpool at Anfield, they dominated that game for sure. Chances were just on that clear cut until the counter-attacking chances came along. So without those counter-attacking chances, I felt Villa really held their own really, really well. I think Unai Emery will have to figure that out again. I mean, to me at least, when you know that Liverpool are so good in the counter, and you choose to put that many players upfield for a corner, I think that's a bit of a risk, isn't it? So I'm not sure about that. I mean, I don't know Emery's tactics well enough to consider like what he's trying to do with that sort of corner tactic, but it's fantastic from Liverpool. Pretty decent from Villa, but again, as I said, I just didn't see how Villa were going to hold Liverpool back for the entirety of the 90 minutes unless somehow Liverpool decides to crumble. But Liverpool, again, really good run of form for them. As I said, when someone doesn't score in the team, another person will score in that team. So really positive result here from Liverpool. I mean, extend the gap to 5 points now at the top of the table. Arne Slot will be really, really happy with what he's seeing, and I think for me at least, I'm also really happy with what Liverpool are doing this season. They've been fantastic, and no one has answers to Liverpool right now. But as for Villa, they can continue. It's not bad from Villa. Obviously, I think to lose now also 4 games in a row, I think, is not really good either for Emery. But I mean, against Liverpool, you can't really expect too much. So again, take this international break, take a break, and then after that, come back stronger, Villa, and hopefully again you would see an uptick in performance for them. Right, Man United Leicester 3-0 to Manchester United. Simply put, Man United play a brilliant game. Ruud van Nistelrooy's last game in charge as an interim manager, he's done exceptionally well in my opinion during his time after the sack of Erik ten Hag. I felt like United were playing with a lot more intent in my opinion. The quality of build-up was very evident. Defensively, they weren't so bad, albeit when Leicester had one really good chance, I think with Ndidi that was. Just had all the time and space, but Onana moves are big enough to save. I think had Leicester scored that, I think things would have changed massively. The complexion of the game would have changed a lot. But when I was watching that game, Man United were brilliant. Fernandez's goal, fantastic. Own goal, really unfortunate, but Garnacho's goal, that was class. You've got to admit that. I think Garnacho was really trying to attack Leicester again. I'm sure he was really trying to score something like that. He had a couple of chances as well. Garnacho tried his best to dribble around the defence, couldn't really do it, but he had the opportunity at the 82nd minute, popped the ball in the back of the net, a brilliant goal, class. Got the score over the line. Man United, it's dominant really, and for Leicester, no answers really. But I felt like at the first part of the first half, I felt they were doing okay. It wasn't the end of the world from Leicester. They would still manage to create a couple of chances or two, albeit it was going to take some time considering the quality of the squad that they have. But were they going to come in and, based on the performance already on its own, right, were Leicester City going to threaten Manchester United at any point in time? I felt the answer was no. Leicester probably could have a snapshot of a chance or two, but I don't think that was going to change the result of the game unless Man United were not clinical or were not having a really good shot conversion rate. But I mean, to score 3 goals, 2 goals with an own goal for Man United, they should be very pleased. This would mean, when Amorim comes in, they're starting on the front foot already, on the back of really good results there. Ruud van Nistelrooy has laid the foundation really well for Amorim. Of course, I think one could probably argue since Ruud van Nistelrooy is doing so well as a start, should he continue to have the chance to continue to take over? Here's the problem actually. I felt with Manchester United managers, the incoming managers always tend to start really well, and it's after that then things start to change again. So I feel like this is just like a moment where Man United are doing really, really well, unless Amorim is able to break that duck where he's somehow able to get Man United to perform consistently week in, week out. I feel like this is just a phase where Man United are doing really well, and they aren't the Man United that we're used to seeing for the past couple of years. I feel that when Amorim comes in, we might see a Man United that was used to, back in the past kind of Manchester United. So we'll see what happens really, but it's very positive for Man United obviously. But albeit in that 4-point gap that I was talking about, they are at the bottom of that 4-point gap. But if they're going to continue to churn out really good results, bound to be, right, other teams above them are going to drop points because they're going to start to play each other. And if Man United are able to pick up relatively decent points, they could be in Europe by the end of the year. And I think that's minimally what they're trying to look for. I'm not sure if Champions League is in their sights right now, but I think Europe, they probably would stand a chance if they do have really good performances. As for Leicester, well, they can continue to try, but it's going to be challenging for Leicester. And I feel that it's not a bad game. I don't think they played a really bad game. I just thought it wasn't good enough to say that, you know, they deserved the result out of it. I just felt like in some, like Man United just had a much better performance than Leicester. So these kind of games, Leicester should have expected to, or at least, you know, come in with the expectation of a defeat. And I mean, there are games where Leicester, I feel like they can win games, and they just need to take those in their stride to really take those chances, and hopefully, you know, be in the Premier League again next year. But yeah, it's going to be a challenge for Leicester, I'd say, to be consistently performing, but they've got to try whatever they can. I think it's not a bad season so far for them. It's just not been smooth sailing or not as straightforward as it has been prior to the relegation when Brendan Rodgers was still in charge. But nonetheless, I think it's obviously a very good game for Man United, not a very good game for Leicester, but I'm quite sure they're positive to take away for Leicester City. Nottingham and Newcastle, this is exactly what I was talking about, when Nottingham Forest may actually start to crumble. I mean, it's just a one-time off game, but based on what I've seen in that game, Newcastle were all over Nottingham from the very start. Newcastle had chances, chance after chance after chance after chance after chance. They were really unlucky to be 1-0 down into half-time. But Eddie Howe, I'm sure he understood that the players had the quality for that, and 3 goals in the second half. Isak's goal, really good. Joe Linton's goal, fantastic. Harvey Barnes' goal, just to wrap the game off, straightforward. Rio's goal for Nottingham in the 22nd minute, really good goal. Really well taken set piece there from Nottingham. And yeah, it was a good goal for sure. But did I feel like Nottingham, they weren't dangerous? Were they dangerous? They weren't at all. Like, Nottingham were just nowhere in the entirety of that game. They just had a 1-0 lead to sit back on and just try to defend that lead. And I think Nuno will now have to really think through, because to wrap off this game week just before international break with a defeat, questions are going to come in now. And despite Nottingham had a couple of good chances, they couldn't convert that. So, but ultimately, I still feel like, again, performance-wise in that game, Newcastle definitely deserved to win that game. It was just a matter of how many goals they were going to score. 3 is a very healthy number at least. But yeah, Nottingham will have to start to prepare games like this. I feel like games like this are going to be happening a lot frequently in the future. They can't always expect to see themselves on top. And it's going to be very interesting, I think, moving forward for Nottingham Forest. The flying start might come to an end, but if they're able to get over that phase, or at least combat that phase with pure resilience, and still able to squeeze in good results despite, you know, being dominated in a lot of the games, then Nottingham Forest are going to do really well this season for sure. Newcastle obviously had I think they had a wobbly start at the start of the season, but they've come into this game, or at least now end this game on a high. It's good for Newcastle. I think it's quite positive. They're currently 8th now, which is good in my opinion. You know, Newcastle, as I said, wobbly at the start of the season, a couple of defeats, a couple of draws here and there, but now, I mean, you're just a point away from Champions League position because of how tight that battle is. Quite positive in my opinion for Newcastle. I think, again, they still need to curb that little consistency issue, just to be a little bit more, you know, positive every time when you come out of games, and every time when you get a positive result off the line, that pushes you up further up the Premier League. So yeah, we'll see what happens with both teams. Obviously, Nottingham Forest, they really need to start thinking about when they face such games, because I think it's their first defeat in 5 games now. So they've had a really, really good run already. So they need to start thinking about it. The reason why I'm so pessimistic for Nottingham is because I just want them to be prepared. I'm just giving them a realistic approach onto how I see things. Good forms aren't going to last forever. Every team's bound to lose at some point. Sometimes, like you look at City, they've lost now 4 in a row. But what I'm saying is that there are moments when one team, when they start to lose games, it's a downhill battle from there. So Nottingham Forest need to be prepared for that, and they need to see how they're going to entertain such a setback time and time again for the rest of the season. As for Newcastle, just need to keep putting in good efforts, good points, getting good points in the bag, and they should have a really good season and challenge for Europe as well if the results do go their way. Right, the shock of the weekend, obviously the biggest shock of the weekend, Ipswich 2, Tottenham 1, Bentancur with a great header, of course, but Ipswich 3 shots on target, 2 goals, went into the half, 2-0 up, and I think at that point in time I was also really concerned because Ipswich have crumbled multiple times this season, so this was like, oh, what if they're going to do the same again? But they really held their own. Solanke had a really great chance at the end of the game to bring the score back on level terms, but he didn't. And if that happened, they'd be like, oh my god, Ipswich all over again. They're not going to get their first win. It feels really cursed, but they've gotten their first win. I think it's a really unlikely first win because of the fact that they had multiple chances to win games prior to that, but they've just not taken the chances seriously. They've conceded last-minute goals or goals that probably shouldn't have gotten in, etc., etc. But finally, to get the result over the line for the very first time in the Premier League for many years, first time back in the top flight, first win. It's great for Ipswich, right? I think they've sort of curbed a little bit of those problems there, but against a really tough Tottenham side, I'm really surprised they've managed to do that. And for Tottenham, it's poor, right? I mean, they've lost to Galatasaray in the Europa League just a couple of days ago, but I'm talking about how you're supposed to be Ipswich Town, right? I mean, quality-wise, you're going to come into this game, Anke is going to come into this game, right, with a good amount of confidence to say that you guys have to win this game. To get a defeat, it's going to scratch a lot of heads, isn't it? Like, how does that happen? Boos, by the way, at the end of the game at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Of course, right? Obviously, that was going to happen. But you've got to give credit to Ipswich Town where it's due. They've really held their own for the first time this season, really kept the result in play, despite obviously conceding one, and that would have been really worrying for them. But great result for Ipswich Town. They've won the game. They should be really happy. Hopefully this can continue for them in terms of really getting good results and allow them to stay in the Premier League. But again, do I still see them as a relegation contender? Obviously, we don't know how often these wins are going to come by, but you're going to have to keep trying. As I said, the resilience of Ipswich Town is very evident. They do really, when they can knock on the door, they really do knock on the door, which I give a lot of credit to Ipswich too. So, yeah, but Tottenham, poor from this game. There's nothing more to say, really. Tottenham, really inconsistent again this season. Like, I don't really know what's going on with them. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. It's typical Tottenham, isn't it? So, I'm not sure really what their expectations are in this season, like what they're trying to achieve here, but they're clearly not doing well. I think they're just above Man United as well. So these two teams, like the big six team, like two of the big six teams are clearly underperforming this season. So yeah, we'll see what happens with Tottenham. But I mean, for this game week at least, you've got to give all the credit to Ipswich Town. All the praise, etc., has to go to Ipswich Town. Congratulations, Ipswich, on your first win. Hopefully there might be some more to come, and that will help you definitely stay in the Premier League for next year. And of course, to wrap, the final game of this game week, to wrap off a Super Sunday, Chelsea 1, Arsenal 1. Really good game, I felt. I only watched the highlights, but again, obviously Arsenal dropped points. Should have probably scored the last minute goal, although I think that would have been offside even if the ball ended up at the back of the net. Havertz's goal early on in the game, that was offside. So really just offside, to be honest. So, but Martinez's goal was really good. Good attacking play from Arsenal there. Neto's goal was fantastic. He really showed his quality there. Enzo with a good pass. Neto sees the space, takes the shot, glides in the bottom corner. David Raya with no chance of saving that one. Thought Chelsea were really good in that game, as expected. As I said, you know, Chelsea are going to provide problems for Arsenal. Arsenal, whether or not they're going to take their chances seriously and really show some attacking intent, that was another thing altogether. I didn't really see that from Arsenal this game. It's again another game of drop points. Arteta should be very concerned again. Ultimately, I think, as I said, when I came into the season, I thought City and Arsenal were going to fight neck and neck again, and Liverpool would be in third. But now what I'm seeing is like a complete flip where Liverpool are just running away with it, and City and Arsenal are both equally struggling. But of course, again, this Chelsea side, right, under Maresca, compared to when Chelsea played City at the start of the season and now against Arsenal, the team has improved massively under Maresca. I'm seeing a lot of positive sides from Chelsea, and I think it's good. I think they might arguably be disappointed with this draw against Arsenal, but I think considering like how they started the season, this is really good for them, and I think they can continue to build on that Maresca. Again, I think the criticisms on Maresca at the start of the season were quite a lot. I mean, the jump, I guess, you know, from managing Leicester City, who just won the championship, to managing a really good European side of Chelsea. Questions raised, eyebrows raised, 100%. But he's done a really good job so far. Third in the Premier League, 19 points at least, so that's joined third. So it's great from Chelsea, 11 points, and Arsenal in the Premier League as well. So you've got to give credit to Chelsea where it's due. they've been really good this season so far, in my opinion, and they just need to continue to build on that, really, nothing more. But Arsenal need to also find answers, just like Man City. At least it's not a defeat, but ultimately drop points is still drop points, and especially when you're trying to fight for the title, drop points do mean a lot. Losing points mean more than gaining points, essentially. And when you want to gain points, you not only want to gain points in terms of your tally, but you want to gain points over your rivals. And that's exactly what Liverpool are doing. And this is exactly not what City and Arsenal are doing. They're doing the complete opposite. So this is problematic for sure. And I think Arsenal will have to dig deep for this, and they have to really find answers. That's the only way around it. But otherwise, it was a really good game. I felt it was a really entertaining game based on the highlights, at least a lot of chances left, right, and centre. I think if I watched the game, it would have been really exciting. Would have been quite end to end. So yeah, but nonetheless, it's been a fantastic game week this week. A lot of crazy results, games that I think showed a lot of potential for any of the sides this week. But ultimately, as I said, there are still problems with the big sides, namely City, Arsenal, Tottenham with the crazy upset, West Ham, Everton look to be in trouble, Fulham, Brighton doing reasonably well, Villa, I mean, expected to lose against Liverpool, but still a really good side. Man United, still question mark in my opinion. I don't know if they're going to do well moving forward with Amarin in charge, or how long it's going to take for Amarin to be very comfortable with the team. Nottingham need to be something to be wary about when they do face setbacks. Newcastle, fantastic from them in that game, but just need to be a little bit more consistent. Yeah, it's been a crazy game week 11. I think there are a lot of pointers to take away from this particular game week. The table suggests otherwise, how tight it is. As I said, you know, that 4-point gap from third place all the way down to 13th. And the relegation spots as well. Those look very interesting too. So we'll see how it pans out for game week 12. There will be a pre-game show, obviously. I'll try to get it out as soon as I possibly can for that one, just before the game week starts itself. But thank you very much for watching, guys. Please do drop a like if you guys have enjoyed. Obviously, subscribe if you're new around here. So like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time. Until then, goodbye. Oh, and of course, I mean, please drop comments in the comments down below how you felt the game week went. And, you know, just leave your thoughts, really. I'm always very intrigued to see how people think about the game weeks. I mean, it obviously provides me a lot of new perspectives, and I think they'll be pretty enjoyable as well. But yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.